You've talked to many people over the years who have been suicidal or near suicidal over a divorce. How does that apply?
Back to the codependency. Man in a robe says, I now pronounce your husband and your wife. There's a codependent. Immediately, as soon as you assume a persona, there's a codependent relationship established. That's duality in itself. Subject, object. Man must have wife to exist. That becomes the mental condition, the belief, I must have that. Then upgrade the illusion, I am husband, I am super husband, I must have super wife. Okay. Again, we're into a setup for misery because none of that's going to manifest. And so the misery comes from the belief that I cannot exist without this partner. Therefore, when she, let's say, says I'm leaving, then this person thinks he's dying, but it's just really the persona that's coming to an end because his codependent partner is not willing to play the counter role anymore that's required for a persona to continue in the mind to think it exists. I've dealt with cases where people were killed during breakups. 59% of all murders in the U.S. each year come during a breakup. And it looks like this is an offensive act. He's killing her because she's leaving, when really in the mind, the twisted mind, this is an act of defense. She's killing me by leaving. No, what she's really bringing to an end is a role. It's not really an act that's threatening, but it feels like it's hurting, interfering with, and threatening this role that is now taken to be real when we assume I am husband. So there's a definite connection there between all of the misery that happens and the acceptance of any persona or role as an identity.
You talk about upgrading or downgrading illusions.
Yeah.
Is that relevant here?
Exactly. Once we assume those roles, it's soon upgraded. As I mentioned earlier, husband has to have wife. That's all he needs to, quote, exist. Super husband needs super wife needs super husband. You're not super husband, she's gone. Okay, the same thing happens if we take this world and we believe this is real. Then we'll upgrade it, and there's this other world that's even better. It's heaven, and we're going to be there forever and singing or whatever the belief is that's going to happen there. Or we downgrade it, and you're going to be in a hell forever. It's just taking an illusion of this world and making a better world or a worse world. It's commonplace. When people assume a role or they take a concept, an illusion, the next thing is they're going to do, they're either going to upgrade it or downgrade it.
Okay, when you talk about personality, you distinguish between emotions and feelings. Is there a difference, or are we just talking about semantics here?
No, it's a little more than that. When it comes to emotions, only an ego state can emote. Whereas post-realization, even though you know who you are, there are still feelings. The difference is what happens after one or the other manifests. If my daughter's hurt in an accident, am I going to feel something about that? Of course. Mm-hmm. Only an ego state, though, like super father, is going to be driven to react to that. So, she was hit recently by a man who ran a red light, broadsided. If I'm emoting around that, I'm super father, super daughter's been injured, I've got to go over and take some really negative action with this guy. I'm gonna bring down the hammer on him. Whereas when we're feeling post-realization, we watch the feelings rise, we watch them fall, but we don't enter into a state of emotional intoxication. That happens when we're identified with a persona. One mistake is that if you realize you're going to become robotic, you're not going to feel, you're not going to enjoy life. Farthest thing from truth. Okay? You're going to feel, you're not going to emote. That's the difference. Ego states emote.
Let's talk about religion and spirituality for a moment. It seems there is a contradiction in your teachings.
Okay.
You say at times that they are a step on the path to realization, but at other times that they are a stumbling block on the path to realization. Which is it?
Depends on the level of the seeker that we're talking to. Every pointer given by a teacher has to be level appropriate. If somebody's at level 2, I'm not going to give them a level 4 pointer, for example. Out of the 7 steps I've identified to realization, the third is a religious or spiritual role. That has to be played. We've got to be there. But what we have to understand eventually is we take the super religious person or the spiritual giant and we adopt those new roles to replace those negative roles before. I was the bad man, she was the bad woman. And now I've got new good roles, the religious one or the spiritual one. But the fact is, they're still roles. I'm only on the third of 7 steps. The problem that happens there when we reach that, Maharaj called it the level of kindergarten spirituality. We actually think we're now enlightened, we're standing in the bright noonday sun. It's only dawn. We're only halfway there. We have to abandon the belief in any role if we're going to move along to the rest of the path and fully realize.
Okay. You also say that when any system or institution demands that people question nothing, that idea runs contrary to the Advaita approach, right?
Exactly. When I grew up with 2 parents who were exposing me to religion, one thing that was made very clear was I had to have faith and not question anything.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of things I had to question very early on. Excuse me, there seems to be a contradiction between this and this. He loves me unconditionally, but if I break rules, he will punish me eternally. Something about that didn't look like unconditional love to me, so I started questioning things. Created a lot of problems with them. The fact is, with the Advaita teacher, questions are invited. You must question. In fact, the whole point is you must question everything. You may find out later on you want to hang on to it. Fine. That's as far as you're going to go. But ultimately, the realized teacher is going to invite the seeker to question everything. That's why you'll sometimes see some exchanges that go back and forth that look like they're getting pretty heated, but they're not. The teacher's simply allowing the student to question, or the seeker or the protege to question. Also inviting him to question what he believes as well as what he's hearing from the teacher.
So maybe this would be an appropriate time to ask you to explain your pointers about natural living versus the unnatural versus supernatural living.
Okay.
What is the focus of the yoga that you offer?
The Nisargadatta was named for Nisarga, which is natural, which is the yoga that I offer with the direct path teaching method. It is an invitation to live naturally, to be free of everything that is unnatural and to be free of everything that is supernatural. The problem with living supernaturally is that there's a tendency to assign some supernatural cause to things that are very natural, which is going to lead to a belief in something that's not true. Mm-hmm. Did the hurricane hit that city because everybody there was consumed in negative karma? Or did it go there because of wind currents and movements, etc.? Is it something natural that drove it there, or is it something supernatural like punishment for negative karma? The Nisarga approach suggests follow the natural way to live if you would like to live free and at peace and without all of the unnatural and supernatural complications that come by not living naturally.
Okay, so how do you answer those attached to supernatural living who have told you, Floyd, there's no way that millions of people can all be wrong?
Well, I would say that's correct. If you look at the history of humans, I would say that it's not millions who have been wrong about their supernatural beliefs, their dogma, their ideology, etc. It's actually trillions and trillions and trillions who have been wrong. And that they are believing things that are based in myth and superstition that aren't based in the truth that can be known, but again cannot be stated.